visual between all the parties, and his audio will be over here.
Okay.
Showing you goddamn people.
What?
What's the warranty on that thing? If I can't take it back to Walmart.
Yes, yours is Gmail. Yeah. Okay. So we got 2 minutes to figure it out. So or not. Yeah. It's just not working. And our IT guy could fix it.
Yeah, I have him in there.
Okay.
It's just not getting it up there.
And it's plugged in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they just tell them, you know.
It's-
Maybe we should-
I think so.
Okay.
I've got him on the thing, but just trying to get that TV.
I mean, he's on, it sounds like he's on the Zoom.
Mhm.
Should be able to do it.
Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Can't hear him.
So. Well, he can't hear us. So.
I think he can hear us. We can't hear him.
Okay. So,
It's 6 because I didn't get your all your phone messages. I did. I emailed it to you and Brian.
which, you know, you don't listen.
Just tell me if I'm saying that too.
No. Red flashing lights. We still have it. It's just,
Can I just plug it in?
oh, you could. It tilts forward.
Yeah, but it's USB. Hey, man.
Either Andy.
That was.
Because this is TV, this problem. Yeah, it's won't power on. That's your problem.
Try turning it off and turning it back.
Unplugged it 4 times, 5 times.
Should I go ahead and get started? Turn it on and off and hit it. That works too. Yeah. That works for everything.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you'd like to join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I apologize for starting almost 6 minutes late. Gotta love technology sometimes. Proclamations, we have none. Public comments, petitions, and memorials. So do we have some trapped people who want to come up and speak? And who wanted to be the chosen one?
Everybody knows me, I'm Art Schmidt from Fairview, and I am the head track coach. Have you had time to review this proposal? Or did it?
No.
It just landed.
Yes.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
Okay, well, I can go through it and hit the highlights. If you would read the goal, I will read it to you. The Red Hawk Track Club, referred to as a club, wishes to obtain city property for the purpose of building a track range A suitable location has been chosen to be located at what is commonly known as the Old Hiawatha Airport. One trap house will be constructed with room for additional houses as needed. Now, what I've included on this proposal is some of the history of the club. It has been in operation for, this will be in the spring of 24 will be our 7th season. So it has been running well. We're basically running off of donations, and I'll jump right to one of the points that this proposal is not asking for any money at all from the city. So that might be a priority.
That's
Our
new.
first.
That's an
First.
important detail.
Yeah, so I'll kind of jump over the history of the club. I know, unless you want me to go through every bit of it, but this sport is the fastest growing sport in the state of Kansas. It started in 2016 with 19 schools and 321 students. In 2023, there was 144 schools in the state of Kansas with about 2,500 students participating. So it's growing. Right now, the club has to travel to Falls City, Nebraska. We do use the old airport for occasional practices just before the season, but it's just with a tractor, with very chalk marks on the ground, and we just, demonstrate sportsmanship and gun handling and get the formalities of the trap range down before they go to Falls City. So Falls City has a there's 5 trap houses. It's ATA approved, so we have to go up there about 8 weeks of the season, twice a week, to shoot our trap. This is where the students have to go to shoot their scores. It's pretty inconvenient for the freshmen. The parents have to bring them that far and travel. The sports kids get out of baseball and they have to try to shoot up to Falls City by the time we want to leave. And we're there from 5:30 till 7 o'clock most evenings. And we shoot on Sundays and Wednesday afternoons. So building a trap house locally to town saves the safety of all the kids, the parents, and people driving back and forth twice a week for practices. The location, I don't know whether you were given the aerial view. If you wanted to jump to that, there is a sort of a line drawn. This is the old airport. The little white lines that I've drawn on there come from the street or the 73 highway right away. That line's about 250 feet. And then the line proceeding northeast is, I believe, about close to 500 feet. So, and I had one question about this, about the shot fall area for a trap range. With standard light load, target loads, which they use, the shot fall area is about 750 feet. So pointing at this direction, there wouldn't be anything even pointed at the highway. That it never, most of the range will be kind of squared off with that runway, and that is the western end of the runway. That runway, I did measure it, it's about 2,500 feet long. So even a large plane in a small aircraft only needs 900. So it's plenty long. I don't think that there'd be any airport restrictions on this, losing no more than about 250 feet of that runway. There's a field, the darker portion of that area right there is cropland right now. It's about 500 feet by 100 feet. I would say that would be the only thing that the city, as far as income, would give up, is that small, that's about 2 acres, I think, or less, right there. So that that puts us in a location along there, plenty of room to expand if we have one trap house, or if we end up with two or three trap houses along there. It is accessible to electricity along right there. The only electricity we need is to charge a battery, and that can be done off-site. We wouldn't even have to do it at the airport to run the trap thrower. I can jump back now to the facilities. I did include drawings for trap houses. So there, it would be an in-ground trap house. The way the elevation sits, it would have to be in the ground, which is not more than about 2 or 3 feet in ground, and then a little house over the top of it. So I've got drawings there for you can study. We would, abide by those standards of the drawings. We do have one trap thrower that is ATA approved for a trap house. So we can build one trap house and have a thrower in it and everything. The financial, like I said, and I did include a profit and loss statement in my package. But estimated it'll cost about $10,000 to build one trap house. That's including the cement walkways that are 16 yards away from the trap house. And we have another grant for $5,000 that's not listed on our profit and loss statement. As soon as we have an MOU or lease on city or school property, that we are eligible for that $5,000. There's several other grants that are available. NRA has grants for this type of situation where we need trap range funds. The insurance part, the trap club operates under the Kansas High School Play Target League. I kind of probably should have mentioned that from the very beginning, because we do belong to an organization that we send our scores into, and all registered students that shoot, the coaches that are registered are covered under the insurance. If there's any other groups that want to use the trap range, they may have to provide their own insurance. I know Quail Forever, they've got a group insurance that can cover anytime they would want to sponsor a function that would act as like a youth activity for them. So insurance shouldn't be a problem as long as they're working through a trap club or an outside organization. So this can kind of be open to the public range, but in effect, it's going to be under the operation. It'll be operated by the Red Hawk Trap Club. The conclusion, I've already gone over some of the conclusion about going to the Falls City to shoot for them. This will stop alleviate all that. But so what the club is asking for is to set aside property for the construction of this trap range, execute an MOU with the club, and I wrote down a period of 10 years. I just pulled a figure out to start with. We don't want to go to this big of an investment and not have some ownership of it. That's kind of quick for you not reading it, but that's pretty much all of it. I'll answer any questions that you might have.
So why, what was the issue with having the corn planted there? Don't quite get that.
The trap house would be almost right up against the cornfield. Yeah.
I didn't know it was on that side or on the other side. Okay.
Yeah, it's the logistics of it. It's right at the edge of the cornfield that runs along there. In fact, it would be better if the trap houses were probably set right in the range, the cornfield.
So your shooters would be back where this shore.
About where those two lines intersect would be, it's just kind of a rough point of where the trap house, yes, that would probably be about where the shooters would stand.
But the trap house would be out.
Almost right to that edge of that field right there.
Okay.
Out in there. The regular trap ranges that are set up have a 16 yards is the minimum, the closest you go to the trap house. And then they go out further to have handicap shooting. They do extend out with the drawing that I sent you, 27 yards to that. So the best thing to do is to build it like that design so that you can shoot the handicap. People just keep backing up a little bit further, the better they are. High school kids don't even use that, so they always stay on the 16-yard line.
Yeah, future trap houses, where would they go like here?
They would probably right to the left of it, before we actually put flags to mark where we want it. That's what we'll do. We'll try to space them. I think they're spaced about 30 yards apart. That's a good guess.
But still within this footprint of what you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Every time that we go to Falls City, we've never used more than 2 trap houses with 18 kids. They don't hardly ever get all 18 at one time. So they shoot 5 at a time. So a lot of times we'll have 10 kids show up. So we'll open up 2 trap houses. We can get those 10 kids through the line, get their scores done in pretty quick time. Some nights we'll have 2 or 3 kids waiting in line to shoot. With 1 trap house, we will probably have to schedule our shooting times for kids so that they all 18 or 20 of them don't show up at the same time. We'd be there for a couple hours.
When you said open to the public, you just mean like if somebody came to you and said we wanted to have an event or something, because I don't like the idea of whoever wants to go out there to use it. I'd rather this be the Red Hawk Trap Club.
That's what I mean. That's why I don't know how to touch that. It's on public property, but the Red Hawk Trap team has to be the sole operator of it. And we can't just register somebody to come up there and start shooting because they're not on the team. It would be for team use unless an organization like a 4-H group has their own insurance for events that they hold. The Quail Forever, I know they have. I've been on the board with them. They have insurance for that. Several other organizations might do something like that. But the track club has to have 1 coach for every 10 students. And right now we've got, I think, 6 coaches. And they're all trained. We have to go through a training put on by the league and pass that, certified for that. So what I did mention in this was that there would be a range safety officer. One of the trap coaches would have to be present, even if another organization was going to run it. So we would have some, say, this is how our trap range is going to be run.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess that leads to my question, since it would be the Red Hawk Trap Club. If 4-H was there at your club and God forbid something happened, would you then be liable?
Well, if the students sign their standard,
I might take that one, Art, if that's
okay.
So I think that it's going to kind of come down to whether the commission wants to talk about a transfer of land versus like a lease. If, for example, like with the softball club, we leased in that property. So if we have a lease, long-term lease, something like that, that would satisfy their requirements, we can draft around the liability part of that on the city side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're indemnified from liability for the use of the premises. So whether or not they would have liability is really kind of a factual question, but we can really draft the city's liability out from underneath.
Yeah, that's
And I would
Great.
want them to be safe too. But that's your-
That's on them.
Yeah, but that's why they would have an insurance that has their requirements for operation.
Right.
things like that.
Okay,
we supplied the city and the school, I think, a copy of the state league, Kansas Clary Target League, a copy of their insurance that states this liability, that we're covered. All of our registered shooters are covered. But we have an MOU, with you, we just have to redo that or go into a lease for the range itself. Like I say, some of these other clubs, 4-H probably has their own insurance for an event to be held. So we'd use the same waiver to sign off on that we've been using with the school and the city, and the gun club in Falls City has a standard waiver that they use.
I'm very unknowledgeable about airports, but the first thing I think of is what kind of rules there are for runways. And you want to put this thing at the end of the runway, and I don't know what we'll have to do to mark that, remark the runway, or I'm not an airport person. Those are questions in my mind that we're messing up our,
Well,
the end of our runway. What do we have to do to protect?
yeah,
Flying in, they'll get shot at.
I understand.
I mean, I know you wouldn't shoot at them on purpose, but.
They're kids. I mean,
Since it's your property, I mean, I don't have an answer what federal aviation people say about this type of thing. Whether, you know, like I said, there's plenty, once they put the north and south runway in, way east, the runway was extended a lot. So I don't know whether there's ample room for everything, or if there has to be an emergency area, since it's called a runway, to be open. I wish I had an answer for that one.
Well, and I would say the FAA can be difficult to work with on any kind of thing like this. But as long as because this wouldn't be, I mean, it's a permanent structure, but it's small. And so I think we can get around some of the like FAA issues with that. Otherwise, they have all these requirements about how the lease is drawn up and all this other stuff. But given the size of the building and that sort of thing, I don't foresee it being an issue. So.
Well, I think we better do our homework on that before we, I mean, I think it's a great idea myself, but I'm concerned about airport rules and stuff.
The history of Hiawatha goes way back when there was a trap range out there and real close to this same area. Yeah.
I agree that I think this sounds great, but I would feel better just if we check things out to make sure that we're not getting ourselves in some pickle that we don't want to be in.
Right.
But I mean, I've seen how it's even grown in the high school. I hate to not provide that opportunity to keep them in town. So
Yeah.
why not Falls City?
We did look at the old target range with their Haynesbury Springs. Kind of we're still driving, what, 4 miles, 5 miles, muddy conditions. It's not an ideal place. This has got a little bit more exposure, a little bit more, you know, out in front, more room to expand, everything like that. So we are able to work with it. This isn't something that we need tomorrow. We'd like to have something done by next spring. We start shooting basically about March, middle or end of March. But we do have winter coming on.
No, I also think it's a great idea. And to have you guys do that for these kids, I think it's.
We do. We have a lot of very safe kids, teaches them a lot of, we hardly ever have to scold somebody about, you're not holding your gun right, you're not doing this right, you know, this. And you go to the state tournament in Wichita, where there's 1,600 kids shooting at 22 of these trap houses, all at the same time. It's quite a sight. There's a lot of interest in it. It's a big sport.
As you said, the trap house doesn't need an electrical service.
No, it would be nice to probably have a light in it. Falls City, we've never used electricity in Falls City. Theirs is run on electricity. Their trap range is big hydraulic driven electricity, but we wouldn't need that.
And you don't shoot at night, you want lights low.
No, we've never shot at night. You know, those that would be, it's not a priority. Yeah, yeah,
That might be a good thing.
yeah.
Oh, so it sounds like that we're in favor of it, but we just need to get some more information on our side about their airport.
Okay,
So and it shouldn't take that long to figure it out, I would imagine, would it, Becky?
No, we can certainly get with the FAA and that presentation there.
Okay,
And so somebody will get a hold of me, let you know, and then, who knows, it may just, you told us everything, it may just get thrown on the consent agenda next, but we gotta make sure that
sure,
it's all good, so.
I agree. Okay,
Thanks all of you for coming.
everything, all right.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Art.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything, any questions or anything you need to explain?
I'm not listening else.
I would entertain a motion. Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Not.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain since I was absent the last time.
Okay. Motion passes 3-0. Moving on to old business, unsafe and dangerous structure, 310 Hiawatha Avenue.
So this item, we discussed this property at the last commission meeting, and commissioners asked that we extend an invitation to the Davidsons and ask them to attend the meeting and talk about what their plans are for the property. You all received communication from the city attorney on kind of what the process has been with this. And essentially, I think it was September maybe of 22. It's been over a year, I think, since this was last addressed. There was an extension given, I believe it was like a 90-day extension, maybe over a year ago, and there hasn't been any progress on it. So was asked to bring it back to the commission.
So, if you want to talk to the mic.
You look at it, I'm Michelle Mardell, I am partial owner of the thing. My brother is incapacitated right now and his wife is at work, so. Anyway, if you look at it from last year to this year, you've got to admit that there has been a lot of progress. A lot of progress. Right now, I am the only one that can work on it. Amanda's working 5 days a week, all kinds of hours. I work 3 to 4 days a week. Rick has been in bed for the last 3 days with a bad back. As a matter of fact, I'm taking him to the emergency room when I leave here. Brian was supposed to have somebody coming to look at the roof to do the roof. As soon as we can get things figured out with Rick, I'm gonna work on getting the siding up. There's been the shed that was up front has been torn down, taken down. I still have to clean that up, but I also have to work around when I can do that because of work, because I also work days and nights, kind of a mix. I'm trying my best, and right now I'm the only one can do it.
But saying it hasn't improved, the outside part that you've worked on, yes, you can see that, but for tonight, the discussion was about the actual house. And as far as the actual house, there hasn't been movement on that.
As in what?
Well, as in the roof, as in
Okay. The roof, it had to wait until he could get the ceiling on the porch redone and support on the porch roof itself because the rafters were coming down, and he's got all that fixed. There's supposed to be a gentleman named Lorenzo coming to look at the roof to let us know when he can get it done. As far as the siding, we've got all the siding. I just have to get it up there and we're gonna paint. I know it sounds like I keep making excuses, but when one brother that also owns it is in prison right now, and the middle brother doesn't come up and help, it's been me and Rick. And he's doing his damnedest. He's in a wheelchair, scooter. Part of the problem right now with his back is because he's been doing more than he should. And I also have a bad back, so I'm I'm doing as much as I can.
Siding already?
We've got siding, we've got all the roofing materials, we've got everything.
Is
Except for
anybody here, Mike?
That's the only thing we don't have right now. But we've got all the roofing materials, we've got the siding. I just have to get it up. It's gonna be the same siding, we've got replacement siding to go where it's there. We've got all this done. I just gotta get out there and do it, but when you're fighting 100-degree temperatures on my days off and or rain, or, you know, it's a little difficult.
But you understand we've been doing this since 2020.
I understand that, but I also was not involved in this until about a year ago, a year and a half ago. I'm trying, I have spent money out of my pocket. I'm the one that bought all the siding. I'm the one that bought all of the roofing materials. I have put thousands of dollars into that house. Okay,
And I remember having this discussion years ago, saying I was worried that that's what was gonna happen, this money is gonna start coming into this house, and it's just.
it is
too big of
not
a
unsafe
project.
or dangerous. It is not. I wouldn't be living there if it was.
So I suppose there's one step further we could take, and we haven't done this, although the city has always had the ability and the right to do this, but we have never actually gone into a house to check to see if it's unsafe, if it meets the unsafe and unfit standards. I don't know what your thought is about that, if.
What
Officer
would be
Jeffrey-
considered unsafe or unfit?
That I can't go into. I can't speak to what that exactly would be. I'm not the code enforcement officer. I don't know, but I think that's a better way for us to tell if the walls are safe, if the foundation's safe. I don't know for sure.
If the roof is gonna hold up.
Because that's another big concern, and I know it may not seem that way, but that's another big concern is if this is unsafe and something were to happen to it and there are people in that house, I don't want that on my shoulders either.
It's not on your shoulders, it's on ours.
But it's
We
on the
have
city.
been in this house, either my parents or ourselves, for 48 years. 48 years. Okay. I've already lost both of my parents. I've already lost so much in this process. I can't and don't want to lose that house. That is all we have left of our parents. That's it. They left us nothing else. That's it. And if you deem it unsafe or whatever, then that leaves 3 people without a place to live. You know what this housing market is like right now. To even rent, it's next to impossible. Plus you've got Rick who has to have handicap access.
No,
I'm a little emotional today. It's been a long day. We had to put our cat down today too, so it's been a long day. We're trying so hard. But it seems like every time we get one thing fixed for you guys, then it's something else. It's like you're not trying to help us either. I mean, I know you are, but it's like every time it's like we get one thing taken care of, then it's something else, then it's something else. Just give me the chance, give me the next 90 days or so, I'll get that damn siding up. If I have to kill myself to do it.
See, that's what I'm afraid of.
And it's Lorenzo, this gentleman named Lorenzo is supposed to be coming to look at the roof and let Brian know something. I don't know where we're at on that. Last I heard, he was supposed to be here by today. I don't know what has happened there. Brian's obviously not here to let us know that.
He is on the phone.
Okay,
You put him on speaker, Mike.
I don't know if Brian has heard anything.
Yes.
Yeah, I have contacted Lorenzo. He is willing to come take a look at the roof. But I also been thinking about this quite a bit. And I think was moved.
Yes,
So that means the gas company has been in the house and they have everything is safe and everything is in good working order. I think we're to a point now where we should just have a third party inspector. They have people that are licensed by the state that can come and inspect the house and make a decision whether this house is worthy of demolition or not. And I believe that they will find that it's not. First of all, I think that that's just good business on our half to have a third party come and look. And I think that there are several other towns that find it mandatory that there's a third party that comes in and inspects the house, so that it's not just the city coming in and saying that this house is unworthy of still standing. So I think this is something that we need to look into, and before we move on with any of it.
I'm good with that, to have a third party come in.
I am too. Now, have you kept up with your building permits and kept those up to date? Or
I have talked to this. Code enforcer? It was the state person on permits for roofing. If it's done for free, and at least one of us is up there on that roof, we do not have to have a permit to have it done.
I think our city policy says we need a.
I'm just telling you what the state has told me. Okay, and that was last fall.
I did just actually read this, and I do believe that if I think she's right, even for our code.
That we still need a permit, Brian?
Yeah, that if the homeowner's doing it and it is for free, then it's not required. It's not a structural repair.
What?
Well, I guess that's something else we'll have to check into. And the thing is, we also say 90 days. 90 days gets us into December. So we're gonna, I'll be worried about weather, but it sounds like the commission's willing to say that we'll find a third person party to come in and inspect the house to see if it is unsafe or if it's not. And if it's not, then I would encourage you to continue to work on that. And if you need to talk to Officer Jeffrey or Mr. Wilson about the permits and such, they can help with that.
Can I add a little bit? Sorry, Becky.
Sure.
The problem that I'm having is people are not willing to tell if we're gonna tear the house down. And so before we get anybody willing to donate or help put a roof on, they want to make sure that city's not gonna end up tearing the house down. And I think that makes sense for everybody.
And we have always, as a commission, if somebody's making progress and getting things done, we don't come and tear it down. As long as we're seeing progress, we're not seeing progress on the house. We've seen progress outside of the house. I'm not arguing that at all. It's nicely mowed and I appreciate that. But it's the actual physical structure that's the concern today. So I think the way it sounds is we're somehow gonna find this third person to come in and inspect.
And who's gonna pay for that inspection?
That's a good question.
How much is it gonna cost?
I've never heard of this process
No,
before,
I
so.
don't. Brian, do you have any idea? What?
Not GPC.
I have an inheritance coming next month, hopefully. Honey, I am willing to put whatever I have to rid this out.
I know you are. You know, I hate to say this, but I'm going to. We know how much your house is worth. To you.
No, actually, I personally don't. What is
The county has it valued at $2,550.
$2,000. How much have you put out already?
more than that?
Yes. And it's gonna cost you a way more than that. And I know that your parents have that your parents, grandparents, but sweetheart, it's a house.
But once we get the roof fixed, once we get the siding fixed, that it can be reappraised, and I can guarantee you it's gonna go up to more than $2,500.
What I want to, I'm sorry, I called you sweetheart, but I meant
That's all
that
right.
from the bottom of my heart.
I'm a nurse.
Not
I
sarcastic.
do it all the time, okay?
Uh,
So,
I didn't mean that in a bad way.
no, I know you didn't. I know you didn't. Like I said, I'm a nurse.
The
I'm
last
not
thing I
supposed
want to
to
do is to kick someone out of their home, but I don't want to see you struggle for food or for medicine or for medical care for a house that's worth $2,500.
We already struggle for all that, so it's nothing new. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Well,
You know, Amanda and I are the only two working. She can, I guarantee you, she doesn't like make what I make in an hour. She makes a lot less than what I make an
I'm
hour.
sure.
So I'm willing to bear that cost. Because I'm also living there.
Well, how about if we find out what it is? I mean, Brian, that might be something you wanna look into. And then,
You find out what it is, you let me know.
I believe it's gonna be more than a commercial property inspection. I would have to get a quote for sure. But there's a lot of the insurance and liability that comes with someone that's got the licensing by the state in order to actually make this decision. So it's not like a typical $300, it's $300 one.
Brian, if you could find the information or somebody can, and Brian can let us know. Because he's got my information, I think, and I know he's got Rick's information, so that he can get a hold of us and let us know what's going on.
Yes, I will look into that. I'll look into that this week and let you know what I come up with.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yes.
and this will be something that needs to be approved through our city administrator as well. I mean, you know, I'm gonna make sure that you're on board with all of this too, so.
Well, and I'm gonna go on and say, I'm gonna go on and say that if it's an exorbitant amount of money, then I'm going to rescind and say that I don't want him to inspect your house. Because there's no need you throwing another $1,000, $2,000 for an
We'll see.
inspector to come in.
We'll see what it comes up to. We'll see.
If it's $1,000 to save your house, though, it's worth it. That's if someone comes in and says, "Oh, this house is fine," I mean, I honestly think that from the city standpoint, that we should run to cover our basis and make sure that we have a third party saying, "Yes, this is okay." There's a possibility that they could get a lawyer and come after us. Is that incorrect, Andy?
If you want to know if they can, sure they can. Although I would say the homeowners over the course of the last 2 years have more than admitted to the delinquency in their house when it comes to the home. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into the likelihood as a possible sure. This house, though, I think we have had statements from the homeowners on more than one occasion agreeing that the property doesn't meet the minimum housing code. That's where we started, with minimum housing. So I guess the short answer is yes, of course they could.
And the city's liability would be the value of the property at most.
Well, I mean, that's all a question, but yes, I mean, it's not like, I don't think the city's acted in a punitive manner, so, you know, as far as other damages, I don't know what those would be, but it's always possible.
I think this is one property that we have really bent over backwards. Nobody else has gotten by
I understand that.
4 or 5 years,
3 years.
3 years. That's all.
Yeah, I think we've agreed that if we can get a third party in to look at it, and then we'll go from there. I would still encourage you to look at getting permits and such though, if this work can start, you can get going on
Okay,
it. And we say this every time, and I feel kind of silly saying it, as long as we're seeing progress and
I've got the next 3 days off. I can work on that siding today. Or, well, the next 3 days, not today. It's getting a little late in the day.
so everybody else okay with that?
Yeah.
All right,
Are you all wanting to put some kind of deadline in place so that it doesn't just?
I think there needs to be. And
Well,
then-
but it's also gonna depend on when the inspector can do it and what it's gonna be. So we need that first.
Can I just say, let's table it for 2 weeks and find out about an inspector and what the cost is before we set a date. Because if it's gonna be $3,000 to have an inspector, that's not feasible. I need to do some research on that. But all I know is there's third-party inspectors out there that are licensed by the state just for this circumstance. So there's gotta be a reason why they have it.
Brian, can you have a figure for us by within 2 weeks?
Yes, yeah, I will work on it, make sure that.
And we will make a decision in 2 weeks. How's that sound?
I'll
Dave?
let you know as soon as I.
okay,
I can be back in 2 weeks without
Alright.
any problem, and hopefully Rick can be with me.
okay,
So,
That would be nice.
all right, go take
But
care.
if not, we
yeah,
understand as well.
he's gonna be going to the emergency room.
Say, go take care of him.
Get him help.
Thank you, guys.
So one issue that is later on the agenda,
Michelle.
is that we have a league conference on October 9th, which is supposed to be our next meeting.
Yes.
So, I don't know what you all want to do. Okay, and we'll just, okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 2, resolution number 17, unsafe and dangerous structures.
So these properties were on the previous agenda. It was requested by Commissioner Shepherd to table it in order for him to have time to look at all the properties. And so that you all decided to do that, and so.
And the way I understand it, just to be clear, all this does is simply puts these owners on notice that, hey, there's issues with your property, whether it be the garage or the house itself. You have until whatever the date is to come in and address this. It's not that we're coming in tomorrow and tearing everything down.
This would set a hearing date for November 13th.
Right.
And so at that November 13th meeting, they would be asked to come to that or get with, code enforcement before that, with a determination of what they want to do. But then you all would have the opportunity to hear what their plans are for the property and make a decision on whether or not to do another resolution ordering the demo.
So, so I did make time and I did go around to every property. I think that probably half of them are just accessory buildings that be taken down. But the most disturbing part to me is the 3 to 4 people that I contacted, they had absolutely no idea that they were even in violation. Now, whether that's true or not, whether the city believes that they have been in contact with them, I don't know for sure, but I feel like this angle that we take right now should be a last resort. And it should be, hey, code enforcers are not having any luck, they're not having any movement, nothing's getting done, and we use this as a last resort instead of blindsiding somebody, saying, hey, this is just the beginning process. Well, it should be the beginning process of actually turning down and us, and it should be that we're not seeing anything done. Does this make sense? Or is it okay for us to just, because people instantly get angry when these letters come out that they're on the list and they're gonna have to come in. So if I'm incorrect, we do think that we are doing a good job of relaying this. It's stuff not getting the clue, or they're just telling me that, hey, I had no idea. Can anybody shed some light on this process?
So this is the process that the state gives us for addressing these sorts of things.
I keep hearing this.
It's
By a reason, this should not be the first step, is what I'm saying. These people should have an idea of violation before you get a letter like this. Is there any other commissioner here that thinks that they should be getting notified? For one time. Do you believe that people should be getting letters just saying we're gonna come in tear your house down with no other idea that they're even in a violation?
Well, they should be talked to. They should be talked to first. Yeah, and explain the situation and everything, yes.
Okay, so this is what I feel so stern on this, that we are using this totally backwards. And we can say, well, it's mandated by the state, but we're also Hiawatha, Kansas, and we're a small town, and we can stop and have conversations with people, and we can cite them for a building that's saying, hey, can you straighten your shed up, leave in the wall off to the right, you know, it's open on your car. Instead of blindsiding people with a letter saying we're gonna come in with a bulldozer. Now, whether this is
I just have a,
this is what we're gonna do, and I can guarantee you I would too, because I see what we've done with all the open lots in town. And it's almost as, you know, the number one problem we have is no housing. But yet here we are floating our own town by driving our loader around and certainly not down for buildings. So I just feel like we need to be working this at a different angle.
well, one thing, I have a hard time believing that after driving around and seeing a lot of this stuff, that they don't realize that there's an issue with it. I mean, it's not like this is just something that has stuff in the yard. I mean, these are pretty dilapidated structures. Second of all, you have to have a process that we follow. And this process, like I said, this is simply a letter that says, hey, you gotta do something. I mean, yes, it is meant to get their attention. But I mean, like last year or the last time we had this list, and I talked with Andy about this, I think half the houses that were on there were off by the time it came to the meeting date, because they realized, okay, it does need to be taken care of. So is it heavy-handed? I don't know if I see it as heavy-handed. I see it as it's time to wake up. This is a problem. Let's get it fixed. You show up here, we just proved we've gone 3 years for one house that we haven't done anything to. So, yeah, somebody's initial reaction can be not real happy about it, but then when they come and realize we're working with it, it's okay. We don't drive the excavator down the street and just wipe out Potawatomi. I mean, we talk to the people first. So that's the way I see it. I'm not.
I don't believe that to be true because I physically called 4 people and they had no idea. One person said it surprised me, it needs to come down. The other 3 had no idea.
Well, now they do.
Because I called them.
And
We're talking about people in a meeting right now and addresses, and they have no idea of it.
Andy, did you have something you're gonna say?
No, I was here to answer questions.
You're setting up. I'm just ready to give you the floor. So what it comes down to then, Brian, is you have issue with the process. I mean, I don't know if that's what we're gonna solve tonight. I don't have issue with the process because I think the letter's meant to catch our attention. And I don't know what everybody else thinks, but for right now, what's in front of us is a list of properties that we need to decide if we're going to move ahead with it, with this resolution.
Well, my idea of this is I would like it to be used as a last resort. It's not having any luck with getting any improvement. So this is where I'm looking. And I think that it'll make people not be so quick to be upset with the city if we're working with them more. These letters instantly put people in a rage. And I don't blame them, because I would be upset too.
Yeah, and I know some of the residents on this list too, I dealt with back when I was, with code enforcement. There's some on there that go clear back when I was working for the city.
Which shows that they need a letter to wake them up a little.
It's been a number of years on some.
Yeah. And we've got to get the town cleaned up and we have to start somewhere. So,
But it seems to me that writing a letter and spelling out what the issues are is the way to do it, because if you go and talk to them, they're gonna forget, they may forget what you said, or they'll come back later and say, well, you never told me what's wrong. And now you're over here with a bulldozer trying to tear it down. So I think putting it in writing that these are the issues with your property, please come and talk with us. Tell us what your plan is for resolving these. And then we'll take it from there. We'll follow the process. I don't see where it's a problem.
And I remember a lot of times too, speaking with people, and then they just blew it off,
Right.
and then it continued to where then I did have to send a letter. And then they did the action to complete it, or they didn't.
so I would entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 17. Setting a show cause hearing on November 13th, 2023 at 5:35 PM to consider condemnation of multiple structures. Would anybody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 17. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, or no? If not, Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 4-1. Moving on to new business, ARPA reallocation.
So we received some ARPA funding. So we had several projects allocated to, or several projects identified for some of our ARPA funds. Those projects are no longer projects that we can do. There were a couple water line projects that I think the previous staff had recommended, and looking at what those projects cost, that we don't have the money to actually do them. Within that, there's also typically, those should be funded by ratepayers. I mean, they're supposed to operate as a business as a utility. And so those ones that were kind of taken off by staff as what we felt like we were going to be able to do with the funds. And then there are also some storm boxes that I think the previous street superintendent had identified, and then now from staff they've said, that that's maybe not a priority and not a need, that some of it is just maybe a need of like cleaning out ditches versus putting in new infrastructure. And so Brad and Stacy and I kind of were like brainstorming what are some things that could be done. The other thing with ARPA money, when it's one-time money and it's grant money, essentially free money from the federal government for this type of thing, we'd really like to do something with it that is going to make a difference, that's going to show a difference to people, and be impactful and visibly impactful. And those projects really are not going to be visibly impactful. And so we were kind of brainstorming what are some things that maybe could be more so. And I think the process that, of course, I wasn't here when this was done, but my understanding was the process to allocate those funds was the former city administrator basically just went to all the department heads and said, what do you want to do? And it wasn't really a prioritized by need, or it was kind of just everyone, you get some money and you get some money. And so now with those projects, some of them not being priorities with current staff, we wanted to come up with something that would be more visible and to show the community that we're putting these funds to good use. And so I don't know if Stacy and Brad, or Stacy, if what if you want to come up and kind of talk about how you came up with the project and what we're wanting to do.
Yes. Well, we met with, well, first of all, this has been an ongoing discussion for several months. We knew that there would potentially be some ARPA funds usable for us. So Brad and I have been discussing, you know, when Becky says visible and for the public, I mean, right away, that's the water slide at the aquatic park. It's a 25-year-old slide that is the color of these walls. It has most likely some aged issues that need to be addressed. And so anyway, we've done a little bit of homework and have come up with what we feel is a great use of this money, putting it toward the aquatic park with the repainting of the slide tower, the slide, the top of the mushroom, and the diving board stand. And then we also, there are some concrete issues we'll have to address near the drain. And then we do have some mechanical issues with the slide motor. So we've budgeted all of those items right around 70,000. And then wanting to utilize that money the best we can, we came up with some features that we feel would hopefully bring the community members who travel to other pools back to Hiawatha. Right now, Fall City and Sabetha and Horton are taking some of our own because they have better slides or cooler features. And I know 25 years ago, Hiawatha was the elite water park, but we are lowest man on the totem pole right now. So hopefully with some additions, we can bring those people back and then also just create you know, another reason for people to move to Hiawatha. We have a really nice water park. There are a lot of cosmetic issues with the aquatic park that I think can be accomplished with this money. So like we said, the slide, some different water features. We had planned to either replace completely or some part of the fence, and these funds could help with that as well, along with, you know, picnic tables or maybe new canopies, or and then also use those funds for the mechanical and the electrical and the plumbing if there are those additional expenses that we would come across. So we've come up with a plan, and we inserted those photos with our report. And these aren't set in stone or anything. We just wanted to give you guys some ideas of what we were looking at. I've been working with Splashtacular, which is a company just located in Paola. It's actually the leading water park company in the nation. And it's just 2 hours from us. So that's really exciting. I've met them in my conferences that I've attended. They're a really great company. They were able to give me these quotes. So we hopefully will be working with them in the future. The timeline of all this, we feel like the slide could get painted this fall. All of the painting projects would get painted this fall, and then we would address the addition of the features in the spring.
Now, are you looking at all of these, or just gonna pick one, like the overhead leaf, the one?
What's in our budget, we feel like we can get some type of water walk, like the obstacle course. And one spray feature. I do want to say that we also, you know, a lot of people have asked about a splash pad in our community, and our budget just doesn't meet that project. So we did look into that as well. So right now, with that money that we're playing with, this is what we've come up with. So probably one spray feature, and like an obstacle course, and then all of the cosmetic stuff and any mechanical.
What kind of plumbing would one of these spray features
What-
require?
It depends on where it's located. Currently, by our frog slide, we have a small spray feature. And what we can do is potentially either Splashtacular or our, gosh, I can't think of who it was, Paddock. The original contractors of the pool could come in and kind of help us through the plumbing of it. And what we're hoping that a new feature can just replace this on deck feature. We don't really want to put something in the water and, you know, tear up the concrete and have to redo all the plumbing. That's gonna get real expensive real quick. So we're hoping to do like a land feature, and then that obstacle course wouldn't require any plumbing or anything, any filtration, anything like that.
It's kind of exciting.
It's really exciting, and you know, we've talked about the pool. You know, we're not in a situation right now to you know, overnight build a new aquatic park with all these great things, but this is just a really awesome opportunity to add on to what we have. And then, you know, down the road when it's time, and it will be time at some point to have a conversation about a new facility, we'll do that. But for now, I think adding some of these features will really excite our community.
Brad, you feel comfortable with, I mean, because being a public works guy, there's always options, and this is the one you feel would fit best? Just, I mean.
I do. I feel like this is the one that'll fit best. It's just, it is, for me, it's just because the difficulty of funding pool projects with the finance of the pool as it's spent. Really, I see this as really a great opportunity for us to make a huge impact, especially with the slide. I mean, I worry about that slide every year. I walked up and down kind of looked at the fiberglass. The fiberglass seems to be in good shape. We've been waxing it. There's certain limitations that we have as far as maintenance goes for the slide. And it's just like there's something to be done. But like I said, I feel like we can get some of the other things that we need to have done in public works done by other means. But I don't feel like this is something that, if we were going to do this kind of an upgrade of the pool, this is something that can be done outside of, you know, a lot more revenue coming in. If that answers your question.
Absolutely. I'm going with the overhead leaf, by the way.
I like that too. Concrete work for the drain that needs to be.
Yeah, and we've,
Last year.
yeah, it's been an ongoing thing. It was first addressed in 2019 when we had a company come in and resurface and repaint the whole pool. And they were the first, well, since I've been here, they were the first to tell us that there were some concrete issues with the drain and the way it was positioned. So they actually patched it. And then, you know, we didn't have water in it in 2020. And then in 2021, when we drained it, it was a problem. Our own staff, streets department patched it. And when we drained it this year, I feel like it's an even bigger issue. So we've assessed it, and we kind of have ballparked what we feel, how much it will take.
Who would you get to fix it?
Well,
I would be comfortable talking to local contractors, seeing if we can get somebody who specializes in concrete to come in, actually do that kind of work. I feel like the patch that was done on the drains is holding fine. And what's been going on over a period of years is there was a void underneath where the coating was for the pool and where the concrete is. And that freeze thaw cycle, if that water was getting trapped, it started to chip that coating underneath that. So what's happened is it's not completely deteriorated, but there's a lot of surface deterioration. And we need to smooth that back out, recoat it, and then it can be sealed up. Okay. And so I feel like that's something that we have local contractors do. I don't think it's a specialized type of thing for like some pool contractor, but I think it's something that we could talk to you know, Brad Rosenberger about or any local contract.
I would entertain a motion to approve the reallocation of ARPA funds from various projects to the aquatic park. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the reallocation. Is there any further discussion?
Just to know, we will obviously need to like bid out, you know, the larger items and all that, but
So at least we can move forward.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Brian on. Brian, did you have a vote? Motion passed 5-0.
Nikki, there's that one for spending this supplement.
yes, and Don probably knows.
Pardon me?
The deadline with our.
You have to have it allocated by the end of 2024 and expended by the end of 2026.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the Chippewa Avenue project. Brian.
Yes, this is a continuation of a project that was started some time back. There was most of the concrete street down at Chippewa Avenue was replaced at one point. The major issue that we have down there is we have a drainage ditch that runs in between two properties on the 10 Quebec Court and Huron Court that fills in. There's a lot of asphalt, things like that fill in over a period of years, and it looks terrible. I mean, we have to do something with that ditch, but as far as the street itself goes, the street itself has deteriorated to a point where it needs to be repaired. And so the quote that I got from Rosenberger Construction is to finish that concrete street out. And as well as we have a resident down here on Court where when that water comes down Chippewa Avenue, it diverts onto his property and it causes him major issues. And so this would take care of that. We would be able to divert that water into a storm inlet that we would set. We're going to tube that ditch and we're going to actually fill that ditch over so it can be mowed by residents and it won't be cattails and weeds. It'll look looking terrible like the way it does now. And it really, that's kind of the focus of this project is, you know, finishing the concrete street plus drainage.
Will there be curbs also?
The curb will be, there are curbs there. It's laid down curb in that area, but the curbs, any curbs that are existing will be replaced. I think it's 167 feet of curb will be replaced to be
Oh, wow.
specific.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve J&B contractors to perform concrete repairs on Chippewa Avenue in the amount of $48,100.
Second.
Been moved in second to approve J&B contractors. Any further discussion? No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. You're right, just gonna move on to the next one. What do you-
I have a quick question. You know, off the top of your head, how much money we have left for concrete for this year?
I don't know what we have on the contract, but we did budget in the CIP for this project and for 2023 project. So we do have the budget in the CIP for it.
Well, I just wonder if there's any money left to do any other
Oh,
similar repairs anywhere this
sure.
year.
Um,
Last year we did some on Laurel Avenue.
mhm. Like to pay for out of all of our contract budget instead of. CIP. Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and I can certainly look into it though and see. what we
I'm
got.
just curious.
Okay, you're still on.
I'm still on. So the case excavator that we used to demolish structures, we had a fire in that. It was in, I believe it was August, early August. And we were over there on the end block of Kickapoo when this happened. We had an original quote for the case excavator. It was just over $4,000. The wiring harness that they ordered was the incorrect wiring harness, and so they have to order the correct one, which is $2,000 more than what the original quote was. And so that puts the quote for the repair at $6,085.15. And like I said, this is something that we need to repair this excavator. And I believe that there's a discussion on here, or as far as the policy, as far as when we purchase the excavator, does the intention to both do unsafe structures and to do major infrastructure projects with this excavator, I believe. And we always just like to have discussion. Right now, by payments, we owe just over $90,000 on this excavator. I would just like to maybe have some kind of discussion if this is something that currently we pay a little over $18,000 a year. That's coming out of code enforcement in order to make that lease payment. And so I think this is just something that maybe we should discuss on whether this is something we want to continue, how many structures that we think that we need to do. If this is, something that's still viable for the city to continue to move forward with. We still have quite a few payments left. We can pay this off early if we wanted to. I would recommend in that case that if we sold the excavator, we could pay it off early and that would be fine. But I just at least kind of want to get your thoughts on, what your guys' thoughts are on the policy moving forward as far as what you want us to do with demolition of structures, things like that.
Well, it sure is a nuisance not having a way to transport that thing.
It is.
I mean, you're at the mercy of our local contractors to help out, but I don't know. What do y'all think about it?
Is it paying for itself?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't think so.
I mean, I'm one that hates to get rid of equipment that we have just because it's like we already have it, but if we still owe that much money.
You know the answer. Could you get better use out of some other kind of piece of equipment and not have this one? Take the money we get out of this and buy something else that you'd use more often?
I would say the answer to that is probably yes. We can collectively think of something that we definitely should have in our possession. And yes, I would say would be easy to come up with.
I think there's also, the discussion of renting that piece of equipment would seem, given how often we're using it, that would seem like potentially a better approach than.
And I have looked into some prices as far as renting equipment goes. Let's say that we get it usually doesn't take us quite as long as what's been indicated here lately to tear down a structure, even if it's an entire house, usually takes us about a day or two. And if we want to move an excavator, like say get a string of 3 or 4 houses and tear them down and get them out of here, we could probably get that done in a week or 2 weeks. And you can rent, the one that I saw was a very, very big excavator, something that we would not use, about twice the size of the one that we have. You can rent that for about $3,000 a week. And so it may make more sense for us to actually rent an excavator, get a string of structures, if we continue to do that, to tear down, rent an excavator, get all of it done. It would actually save money, especially in that code enforcement budget throughout the year.
Or hire somebody to do it.
Or hire somebody to do it.
So we just have to. So what we do tonight, though, we have to definitely repair it. Right?
We do have to repair it, yes.
So.
And that's my recommendation, is just to approve the repair of the excavator, and we can have time to think about any questions that you might have, or we still have more time to have discussion. But I just kind of want to get this in your minds tonight and at least start it tonight anyway.
This is not the first time we've repaired that, is it?
It is not.
I didn't think so.
No.
Okay.
You would, you
Yeah, it might be time to,
would do something big like this for getting a lead line replacement.
No, this would be actually too large for lead line replacement, yes.
And how would you sell it? Would you, this isn't a purple wave thing, is it?
There's certain sites that you can use to sell things like this. I've seen excavators same year, actually more hours than ours. So, you know, they're asking 130, 140,000 for some of these. And so what they're actually selling for, I don't know, but I know what they're being listed for at this point.
And typically you put a minimum bid, so.
It's all, it's correct. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the return of the use excavator in the amount of $6,089.15.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the repair of the case excavator. Any further discussion? No?
All in favor?
Aye. Motion passed 4-0. I have to count every time. Seriously. Just a second. Communications.
Just a couple items on there. The Ruth and Roger Wolf Charitable Trust has sent out a letter that they are accepting grant applications again, and the deadline is November 30th. We've had some discussions about what we budgeted in the CIP for pickleball courts. So we're looking at applying for that. Whatever the application is, it'll come to you all before we submit it. And then HRS, their bonding company, we filed on their performance bond, submitted quite a bit of documentation on, you know, how we felt like the project was not done to contract standards. And they have responded that they are not going to hire someone new or pay for someone new to finish the project. But they are looking at the dollar value of what potential liability might be there. So there is some progress with this. So I wanted you all to be aware of that. Last item, October 9th is the next city commission meeting, and it is also LEAP conference. And we have 3 commissioners going to that, myself and Brad and Dawn. So we won't be here at 5:35 on October 9th. So I don't know what you all want to do with that commission meeting. Could do Tuesday, the 10th, or whatever you guys like to do.
I think it'd be easy, just move it to 10th.
Okay.
I mean, that works for me. I don't know if it does everybody else. Fine. Okay. We need a motion for that to move the date?
No, well, yes.
I make a motion.
It's an ordinance, so we need a motion.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
I make a motion that our next city commission meeting occur on October the 10th, which is a Tuesday.
Same time.
Same time, same station.
Second.
Moving and second to change the commission date to the 10th. Any further discussion? If not,
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 4-0, and then so somebody will let Davidson know that that's the change of the date. Anything else?
I do not have anything else. Does Brad or Stacy do either of you?
Any more sewer project update?
Oh. Sewer project update, there will be, let me look at my calendar real quick. There will be. There's going to be a pre-construction meeting, or it's not pre-construction, but it's gonna be a progress meeting. And so a week and a half ago, I was contacted by the contractor themselves, and they wanted to go out to the site and look at it. And so I know in this period of time, I've been out there with the contractor along with the sewer department. The electrical contractor has been there. As far as the subcontractor doing the dirt work, I'm not sure if he's been there, but it sounds to me like I contacted the engineer to see, just to kind of give them a heads up that, hey, there's starting to seem like there's progress here. And I believe that from what they've told me is that their intention is to get the project going, within a few weeks. We have to get the sign from USDA that has all the funding, but they've already said that in for approval from USDA. And he said once they get that approval, they can have that sign made in a day. And so it sounds like we're very, very close to having that started. So that is good news. A little bit on the telemetry project that has started as well. That should be finished up this week, and they will be back to full operation as of this week, is the plan.
Finally, we're seeing progress.
We're seeing progress, yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to governing body comments. I have a few. First of all, I went out to the burn pit. I don't know, sometime last week. Quite impressive, Brad, that your crew got all those bricks. Like, you couldn't tell that pile of bricks was ever there. It's just gone.
Yes.
And that was a big pile. So kudos to that. Second of all, I wanted to point out, I always love when the city works in conjunction with another entity. And so I have to point out is it the first grade class, Stacy?
Yes.
Who has adopted Star Park, not Star, Crestview Park. There's been some pictures there of they, picked up trash and neatened things up, and just, it's really cool how they've taken ownership of their park. It's just, it teaches kids responsibility too. And we need kids to take responsibility for stuff so they continue to want to see it look good. So I don't know who came up with that idea, but that was your idea.
It wasn't, I won't take credit for it. It was actually Sarah Bannister, one of the first grade teachers. She frequents Crestview Park, or formerly did when she lived near there with her kids, and kind of witnessed some of the trash issues and vandalism and stuff like that. So it was actually her idea, and then the first grade team reached out to me, and I was totally on board with that. I just think it's so great. I was able to go talk to the entire grade a few weeks ago and entertain their questions, and it was the best 20 minutes of my week. I did have one boy raise his hand and tell me that he was really disappointed that I missed his birthday. So that was the only negative of that conversation, but I know each class has been over to Crestview at least once. And they wear their gloves and they pick up their trash and they pull weeds, and I have a couple of things in store for them that they don't know about yet. So I'm just excited to partner with them through this school year.
I have to tell you, I know it's not my turn, but I have to go outside and watch them. And they just have so much fun.
Well, and not only is this a great example of citizenship and taking pride in your community, but one of the teachers, Mrs. Jones, also informed me it's a really great learning experience for the kids to know how to walk on a street and watch for cars. And so it's just, it's been a really good learning lesson for them all around.
I just thought, I was gonna say something before and I keep forgetting, so I thought I got it in there, but just the pictures alone, and I think an additional thing that has made this successful is so many of those kids know who you are, because between t-ball and football and just everything, they know who you are, and so that just helps them create ownership too. So I mean, it's kind of what our art department's supposed to do, and I appreciate seeing that. So the third thing, just so I want to, end on a frustrating note, just to let you know, we have received yet another email from the governor's office from Zach Vincent. He's the gentleman that we talked to before about the street light or stoplight, whatever it is. And he said that he is still in discussion. He's been in some discussion with KDOT, getting more information, because some of the information is different than what we have said. Shocker. And I just replied back, and so he said he's still checking into it, he'd let us know, so I replied back to him, thank you very much for the update, if you want any more clarification from us, please reach out, because the email was sent to both myself, Brad, and Lonnie Moser, superintendent, so say there's a chance, I mean, we're still working on it, but that's where we're at with that, so that's enough for me. Brian, I assume is not on the phone anymore. So moving on to Dave.
I was out of town Saturday, but I heard the Maple Leaf Festival was a big success, rain held off. So I'd like to thank the chamber, all the city staff that helped with whatever they did, and everybody else that volunteered to make it a successful festival for our town. I was out of town, I missed it, but I'm glad it all worked out and we had heavy rain. And here in a couple of weeks, the tree board's gonna work with Parks and Rec, and we're gonna plant some more cedar trees out on our windbreak out of Brody.
Evans?
My kudos go out to Maple Leaf Festival, a lot of people in town this weekend, so it was a good turnout.
I was in Lawrence, 3-hour wait delay, light delay for the Rimrock Invitational, but anyway. So it did not hold up there. Tony?
The Maple Leaf Festival was great. So nice to see so many people in town and people from out of town. It's great. Stacy, you do a great job. Brad, all of our department heads and employees do well. Congratulations to Jenny. I was happy to hear about that. And anyway, I'm just in a pretty good mood tonight.
That's a good thing.
I didn't complain to anybody, did I?
Okay. So then would you like to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, yes. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
And moving second. Don?
All in favor?
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. See you all on October 10. Holy cow, I don't know.
I know this one. This was amazing.
Gino, how are you? There is a letter in.
See, I haven't received nothing.